Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Leading Our Own Way. We have another amazing week. I hope you're all having a fantastic week so far. Weekend's just been, let's get right into it. I'm asking myself, I used to think transformation was this, this massive, dramatic moment. I love movies. It's like a movie, you know what I mean? With a montage and with epic music. But the truth, real change, I think often starts in those quiet moments when we finally stop running from ourselves, I guess is the best way to say it. As you know, I'm Andy White. I'm the host, and this is Leading Our Own Way, the podcast where we dive deep into the stories that reshapes lives. Today, I'm sitting down with the amazing Bec Christian, a mindset consultant and founder of the Limitless Academy, who's turned her own battle with binge eating, self-doubt, and emotional chaos into a roadmap for others seeking freedom. Just incredible. You're going to get so much from this episode today. It's going to be absolutely amazing. From forgiveness to manifestation, from timeline therapy to complete life alignment. That word alignment is very important, may I add. Bec has walked through the fire and come out the other side with wisdom that's going to shake you awake. Really is. It's amazing. If you ever felt stuck in patterns and you can't break, or wondered if there's a more to life than what you're living, well, I do feel this chat with Bec today is definitely for you. Anyway, let's get right into it. Here's Bec Christian and myself. See you after the short trailer. Oh, don't forget to follow the show, please. Please go and press subscribe, follow on all the channels, and give us a 5-star review if that's possible. Here's Bec. Welcome to Leading Our Own Way. I'm your host, Andrew White, and this is the podcast that unveils captivating narratives of resilience and personal triumph. This podcast is for anyone seeking inspiration and insights on overcoming life's challenges. Follow and subscribe, and then we can lead together forever. Bec Christian, welcome to Leading Our Own Way. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's an absolute honour to have you on the show. It's been a long time coming, really, hasn't it?
It has. We've been having a few chats from time to time, but yeah, here we are.
Yeah, we are. We're definitely here. Well, it's the clocks have recently changed, so we've had to readjust the times, but we got it going. We got it finally worked out. But yeah, look, I always say to my guests, thank you for joining me on my journey. It's such an honour to have you here. And we've got a little bit of a home connection. We found out on the pre-chat when we spoke a few months ago, we're both pretty much from the same area.
I couldn't believe that. Honestly, I was like, what a small world.
I know. I've had a few people from home who were friends, but then another person that I met in Australia who's 3 streets away from me, believe it or not, in Manchester, down in Denton, where I'm from, could not believe it. And then I find out on the pre-chat, you're from the same area, not even beforehand.
Literally, I was like, oh my God, I'm surprised we didn't know each other from school, but I think we've got a few mutual connections, haven't we? But apart from that.
I think I'm a little bit older than you though, right?
Only a few years. How old are you?
I'm nearly 42.
I'm 38. So yeah,
Oh, yeah.
a little bit
So
of a
we're in
gap.
school at the same time, roughly.
Yeah, roughly.
For maybe a year or two. That's cool. Very cool. Yes, we are from pretty much the same area, and it's quite an interesting journey. If we're gonna sum up your journey today on the episodes and the journey that you're going to take us on, what words or phrase do you think you could sum up your journey?
Oh gosh, if I could say one word, it'd be a roller coaster, right? But a fun one at that.
Yeah, I like that. Roller coaster symbolises life quite well, really, doesn't it? Because everybody has ups and downs. Sometimes we can be on the slippery slope a lot longer, and sometimes we can be climbing for a short amount of time, long amounts of time. So I think that's a really good analogy of the roller coaster. Why would you say roller coaster then in your part?
I think for me, and again, this is going back to where I obviously started, not who I am today, but I found that I was very much in this energy of fight or flight. So I always felt like when I was on a high, I was on a real high. And then when I was on a low, my God, did I nearly hit the floor. So I just think with my personal journey, it's knowing what I know now and looking back, I wasn't in a place where I was regulated enough to take the polarity of life and deal with it in the best way. I was very much in a place of zero self-worth, like zero confidence, never feeling good enough. And I found myself in these situations, and I truly believe that life happens for you and not just to you. But there were definitely experiences in my past where I felt like it was just one thing after another. And I didn't know that I was responsible for my own results back then, because I do believe that you can't change what you can't see. And I didn't see it. I didn't see the patterns I was making.
Yeah. I think a lot of people fall under that category, don't they? And even though we're all looking at the same thing, we also see everything differently and sense it differently and react to things differently. And I think that's, I think deep down, that's why the podcast exists, right? So people can take pieces away from our conversation today, whether they've been through the exact same, and even if they have been through something very similar to yourself or myself with my journey, they'll have all felt about it differently, right? And reacted to it differently. So have you ever had a friend, have you got a friend in your life now that was a part of your life of that old Bec and still is a friend now with the new Bec?
Yes.
So if that friend was watching the show and I was speaking to them and I asked them the question, what do you think that your friend would say of the old Bec versus the new Bec? What transition, what pivotal moments would they be able to tell me about in your journey, do you think?
Oh gosh, I witness it every day pretty much, and obviously the way I am and the way I show up online and the life I'm living today. I think friends, even though they've been in my life for a long time, they still see me as the girl I used to be, right? But they don't see me as the woman that I am today. And I think sometimes what can happen with that, and I guess anyone will experience this as they go on this journey, is, like I said, they see you with how you used to be. So sometimes they can't get on board with how far you've actually come, Have you had that?
Oh, with this podcast, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, totally. I think, you can be, I've had friends in my life where we've both been through very similar things. And then not that they've not moved on from some similar experiences, but because you've maybe turned it into your purpose, you can't facilitate that same conversation at that level anymore because you've turned it into your power, where some of them are still sitting in it and that conversation doesn't level with them. So it's really hard for them to connect in that same way, if that makes sense. I don't know if I explained that very well, but that's probably the best way I could do it in the moment. So if that friend was going to describe Bec as they know, how do you think they would describe you?
I think now it would be definitely confident, because it's something that I didn't have. Like, I just wasn't confident in myself, in what I was doing in life, like anything. So I think if they was to look at where I was to where I've come, it is transformation, right? I think that's the one word, as basic as it sounds. I think that is the one word that would explain and describe from where I've come from to where I am now.
Yeah. Do those people in your life acknowledge the business and the things you are doing now on a day? Because we're going to get into how you're leading your own way in a second. Do they see the power in what you're doing? Do they acknowledge it, do you think?
I don't think so, especially friends that were part of my life back in the day, let's just say. And I've been on this business journey now for 3.5 years. Self-development journey, probably properly since I was 30 years old, which obviously we'll get into. I'm 38 now. Yep. But I don't think they have the same interests as me. I think they see the world in a very different way. And it's definitely something that I've had to really, I guess, accept. You have to come from a place of acceptance, because it's like as you go on this journey, you're grieving an old version of you, and the friendship that you had back then feels very different to the friendship that it is today. And I think there is a level of grief that comes with that, and acceptance, because the only thing that you really have in common, and this is in my experience, not all friends from the past, but I mean, my circle is very, very small. But I think, you only have so much in common, and that is usually the past.
Agree. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Absolutely. Well, the podcast is called Leading Our Own Way, and how would you consider yourself leading your own way?
where do we even start with this? I mean,
Oh, I love it.
oh God. I mean, I remember waking up one day and again, we will probably get into this, but it was the day I decided to leave my ex-husband. And I remember waking up thinking, I am not living my life like this. Like, I was working a corporate job, and don't get me wrong, it was for an incredible airline, one of the best in the world, but I was only earning enough money to get by. And my life was very routine. And it was, in all honesty, I was bored. I was bored, and I remember sat there thinking, there has to be more to life than this. And I was 30 years old at the time, so it wasn't like I was in like my early 20s. And, you know, with societal pressure of today, it's like you've got to have all your shit together by the time you're X amount.
Yeah.
And all of this pressure that comes with it, and you're going to get married, you're going to have children. And, you know, when I decided to leave, I mean, I had my own reasons for leaving that relationship. And again, we'll probably get into that. But it was that day where I had to think about who I wanted to become and what life I wanted to live. And I guess that's where my self-development journey began. And I just kind of went off on this journey. I went for my own therapy because I had a mental breakdown. I know, I'm sure we've all been through those challenges that have literally felt like it's just floored us completely. And I guess I just decided to go on this journey, on this path. And looking back then, I didn't have a clue what was ahead of me. I just knew in my soul that this isn't my life. Like, I don't want to be living like the majority of people. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, everybody's on their own timeline and everybody has got a desire to live the life that they want to live. But there was something inside of me where I was like, you're made for more, you know? And I didn't know what that more was back then, but I just knew I had to search for it, right? And it's like, if you seek, you will find.
Can you remember manifesting or visualizing anything at that point in time?
Oh, I remember getting the most magical journal. Definitely a journal girl. I'm like pen and paper. And I remember going out into Windsor, because that's where I was living at the time. And I bought myself a journal and I got myself a pen. And I discovered the book, The Secret. I mean, we've all heard of Rhonda Byrne and The Secret. I'm sure most of us start there. And I thought, wow, this sounds really easy. Like, manifestation sounds easy. It was like this magical thing I'd discovered. And I literally took my pen to paper and I just started writing about what I would love. Like, it was like I was tapping into my, you know, imagination, like one of our mental faculties. And I was like, just imagine what my life could be. Like, let's have fun with this. Like, let's see how far we can go with this. And I remember writing it all out and thinking, okay, this is the life that I'm going to manifest now. And things weren't happening the way I wanted them to, right? And I was like, that book doesn't make any sense. I'm following that strategy and it's not working for me, you know? And it's like, but that was what took me on to finding out about myself. And I realised at that time, because I came across like some timeline therapy, which I ended up having myself. And I realised how much past trauma and beliefs and negative emotions that I was storing, not only in my mind, but my body and my nervous system, you know. And you can only live a limitless life, whatever limitless life means to you, at the level of which your nervous system will allow you to. So that's where it started.
Yeah, no, and I love that. What were some of the words then, if you can remember, that you first wrote down about the future self? What were just simple words? Because I think this is powerful, right? And this gratitude and manifestation and journal comes up quite a lot in our podcast. And that's kind of what I did with my book, right? Was to write my journey down. Hence now I'm talking about everyone's journeys. That's my own little journal, if you will. What were some of those words that if you can remember?
I wanted to be happy. I wanted to basically look in the mirror and like what I saw, because I had such a negative self-image and how I used to see myself. I come from a binge eating background. I used to eat emotionally, and I just didn't like, I didn't like who I was. And I just thought, I just want to be able to wake up in the morning and just be happy, like be content and not satisfied, because I think if you're satisfied, you're never going to grow or pursue the things that you want in life. But I just wanted to be content with who I was and have confidence in myself. And then I remember thinking, I just want to be with a man that like loves me as much as I can love myself, because I knew that people can only love you at the level of which you love yourself. And knowing what I know now and the patterns, that is why I kept attracting these relationships and with men that either would cheat or they'd leave, or, you know, it was toxic. And when I say toxic relationship, I'm talking toxic on both sides, right? Because you attract at the level, like the energetic level of what your beliefs are about yourself. And I do believe that people come into your life to either give you a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And I think they are here to help us learn these lessons. And I've got so much like gratitude for my ex-husband, as hard as that situation was, and the whole 3 years of that relationship and the marriage breakdown and everything. I wouldn't be here today doing what I'm doing if I hadn't experienced a life with him. And people think I'm crazy for saying that because they know what he put me through. And yes, there are different ways of, you know, growing as a person, but I truly believe I needed that. I needed to be treated that way to actually start to choose myself. Because that's the thing, I wanted people to choose me. I had this anxious attachment style, which again, I didn't even know what that was back then. I wasn't aware of it. And I was constantly wanting to be chosen, whether that be in work, in my career, you know, with my friends, my partners. Men's been relationships have been the biggest learning curve for me. But all along, I was never choosing myself.
Yeah. And it sounds like, with what you just said there, forgiveness has been a huge part of that. And a lot of people hold on to it, which really keeps them in the handcuffs, doesn't it? With forgiveness comes quite powerful parts of recovery, acceptance, self-belief, confidence, whatever words you want to bring into it. What does forgiveness look like for you in that regard then? You clearly forgived. I mean, I know you said it was toxic on both sides, but we're talking about what you were receiving. Have you forgiven? It sounds like you have. And how hard was that for you?
It was hard at the beginning because I was so hurt, like he put me through so much pain and hurt. And it took me, I don't want to say a long time to forgive, because I think because of my upbringing and my childhood, and I've had to forgive a lot of people, caregivers, you know, parents. I forgive because I know that people do their best. People can only do their best with the resources that they have available to them. And it's knowing what I know now. And I think that's what took me on this journey of understanding behaviour and people and psychology and understanding the mind, because it is so powerful. And I think when you start to come from a place of compassion, you know, and see that if people treat you that way, it's never really about you. It's always what's going on internally for them and how unstable they are, I guess. So forgiveness it's not an easy journey if you've never, you know, been in that headspace to do it. But when you forgive, you have a level of inner peace that no one can ever take away from you.
Absolutely. You also mentioned the word in your manifestation, your journal, happy. You want it to be happy. Are you happy now?
Oh, I'm living a life that I have been dreaming about for so long. So yeah.
Love it. What does happiness mean to you? Because being happy isn't a survival emotion. It's not one of the, I think, 8, 9 survival emotions that we have in our repertoire as a human. How would you determine happiness or even versus contentment maybe? I'm assuming you're content because you've said you're happy, but yeah, what's definition for happiness for you?
Alignment. I think being so aligned with your path, your purpose, who you are, what you're here to do, who you're here to serve. And of course, happy is an emotion, and we experience polarity, right? We experience happy, we experience sadness. But I guess if if I was to say, like, what do I want in life now? I wouldn't probably say happiness. It was the word that I used back then. I would probably say alignment, because when you're aligned, everything in your life just it feels like magic. And I'm not saying that I don't go through challenges and I don't go through obstacles, because it's all part of the human experience, right? I do believe that we are a spiritual being with an intellect living a very human experience. And again, that's my belief system. That's the connection that I have with the universe, God, source, spirit, divine, whatever language you want to use there. But I think when you are truly aligned, that's when you can truly live a life on purpose.
Yeah, love that. Never heard anything like that before when we talk about happiness, because again, it's something we do talk about quite a lot. and I've never heard of it like that. So another one for the diary, Bec. But before we go in, look, I know everyone's dying to hear what you now do. Because, it's 10 o'clock. What time is it? 11:15 there in the UK. In the Cotswolds, I believe you're in. Is that right?
Yeah,
Lovely
I
Cotswolds.
am.
If no one knows what the Cotswolds is, please go and Google the Cotswolds, because it is one stunning place. If she's living in a paradise within the UK, this is definitely one of them. It's a little bit nicer than where we're from, just a tad. And it's 11 o'clock in the morning, and she's at home. She's living what the dream is, kind of what I'm still working towards. And I love that you're doing it. But you brought up food before, so I want to jump right into that first. We never really mentioned food in our pre-chat, and I talk heavily about food, nutrition, and you might be able to see the book behind me. It's called The Food Mood Connection. It's somewhere on my shelf here. Pleasure eating, something I drastically went through too, with some parts of my journey, which I'm very actually thankful, because that's actually probably part of the journey that actually saved me, versus going to drugs or alcohol or suicidal thoughts came into play, but I didn't go down that route. Pleasure eating, I suppose, in a way, saved me and got me to the crisis point. How did that play a part in your life then?
Oh gosh, I was a binge eater for as long as I can remember. Like, from literally, I always remember my gran used to look after me quite a lot because my mum was always working as I was a child. And she used to have this like biscuit tin, and it was like, I don't know if you remember them from back in the day, it was like a clear glass one with like a red lid. I used to love it. And it was just full of Maryland cookies. Like, I absolutely loved Maryland cookies. And I remember she used to say to me, right, you can only have 2 after your dinner. That was like it was tea. I used to say tea back then, the northern slang.
Yeah.
And I always remember I used to take 2 out, and she'd see me. And then when she wasn't looking, I'd take more biscuits from the tin and put them in my pockets. Cheeky. And I would literally go and eat them and then nearly make myself sick. And this was at such a young age. Like, this was probably about 5 or 6 years old back then. And obviously when you're a kid, you don't really know what you're doing, right? No. You haven't got a clue. And I remember that's how I think my addiction started, this binge eating addiction that I had. And it was only when I got to, when did I heal from that? 29, 30, 31.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. And that was when I went on my own fitness journey.
So that you said healing from that at 29, 30, what point did you get to in your food journey then?
I think the moment I realised I had a real problem was when I used to fly around the world. I used to fly long haul. I used to go to LA quite a lot, and they used to have like the biggest bag of Cheetos. Oh my God, obsessed.
I know.
Even to this day, they are my guilty pleasure. I do have to, I can't have them in the house. And I remember being in LA, and I think I was quite depressed at some point, because there was one particular trip, and I'd been dating this guy, and he basically treated me like crap, right? I allowed it. I take full responsibility for that. And he ended up I think he finished with me, but something must have happened, and he just said, look, I don't want to see you anymore. So I went on this trip to LA, and I went to the shop and I bought these massive bag of Cheetos. And I remember staying in my room pretty much the whole 2 nights of when we was in LA, and just binged on Netflix and just ate chocolate and these big bag of Cheetos. And it was when I was coming back and I thought, I don't feel okay. This isn't normal. This isn't healthy. You need to sort yourself out, because you don't like your appearance. You don't go to the gym. What are you doing with your life? And I think that was a real turning point for me.
Yeah. It's that pleasure hit, isn't it? That dopamine that we think we need all the time. I've got rid of sugar quite a few times. We've just got rid of sugar again. We've just gone on a complete for our kids, because that's the flip side of that. You've just said about 5, 6 being addicted to that. I feel like also complete bans. I feel like my children are going to become more addicted to it because we've done a complete ban. Tonight, even at dinner, my son was like, There's nothing up there. I'm like, yeah, we got rid of rubbish, mate. We're going cold turkey till Christmas, mate. And he went, there's not even a bag of chips, though. That's how the Aussies talk. There's not even a bag of chips. Yeah, I went, that's rubbish, though, mate. There's no rubbish. You're not hearing me. And he can't comprehend there's no shit to eat, the poor kid. So I get it. I really do, and it's horrible. Food is a whole new podcast, I think, Bec, that I didn't plan for. So we could be there all day. Look, we're dying. We've already normally dug into what you're doing for a living, because that's how you're leading your own way, and you've tied it up really quite nicely in the journey we're going to go on. Tell us a little bit about what you do. And you said you started a business 3 years ago. You handed your notice in at the big airline that you worked for. Where did you then take it?
Oh, gosh. So, for those that don't know me, my name is Bec. I am a mindset consultant, timeline therapist, and the founder of Limitless Academy, which is my ever-growing monthly membership. And I decided to start my business as a health coach because I wanted to help other women feel good within their own skin and obviously overcome binge eating. It was something that I massively struggled with for years. And that journey kind of took me, it took me to where I am today, and like getting obsessed with the mind-gut connection. When I actually understood the gut health and how much of an impact it has on your mental health, I was like, oh my God, no wonder. I've been struggling for so long. And don't get me wrong, it's never just the one thing. It's an accumulation of putting all of the pieces of the puzzle together. But it was just a fascination that I had and how the body works. And I just became so obsessed with it. And I thought, my God, I've been trying to change my life and going on all these stupid fad diets and Slimming World and, all of the things.
I want to find my book. Now
Have you got a Slimming World book?
No. The Food Mood Connection, this one.
Fine. Yeah.
It's a beautiful book. And obviously talking about the brain and other parts of the body, obviously I looked at the vagus nerve with, a big, huge discussion point. And I think you're so right. So is food a big, huge part of your program then when you're talking to women?
Not at all.
Oh, wow.
Not at all. It used to be. And that's when I was obviously working a lot with helping women become healthier. So one of my programs I used to run was Mind, Body, You, because it was all about the mind-body connection, the mind-gut connection. But I became a timeline therapist because it helped me so much with my own mental state and overcoming a lot, and I mean a lot, of childhood trauma and, never feeling like I could ever achieve anything in life, and I wasn't good enough, I wasn't clever enough, I wasn't pretty enough, like all of these beliefs and stories that I wrote myself. And that modality absolutely changed my whole life and, most importantly, my energy, right? Because the world is like a mirror, and it's like what I was putting out energetically. No wonder I had the poor relationships that I was attracting, the opportunities that weren't really going to propel me in my career. Like I just felt so stagnant. And when I got into energy work and timeline therapy and healing those and basically healing and processing emotion, I mean, you might have read a book called The Body Keeps a Score.
Got it right there.
Yeah, it's a brilliant book.
I've not finished it, but yeah.
Yeah, it's such a brilliant book. And I think that to me, it was like I'd found my absolute passion and purpose. And I thought, this is what I need to help women with. And that's kind of where I am today. I just kind of went all in on mindset. And yes, we still cover, especially the membership, I always cover things like healthy habits and CEO identity habits, because what I've learned on this journey, it's not about me being addicted to food. It's the identity of who I believed I was.
Yeah.
Right? I was holding an identity of somebody that wasn't feeling good enough. I held the identity of somebody that used to binge eat every day. I didn't know how to change, because it wasn't the fact of just, you've mentioned going cold turkey and just cutting everything out. And I know that works for some people, but for me, it didn't.
Yeah.
I was just constantly craving. But what I had to do was I had to change my beliefs and how I saw myself at a very, very deep core level for me to heal those habits that I'd created.
Yeah, absolutely. So talk to us a little bit about the timeline therapy then. What if somebody was to come to you as a client? How would that look like on the first day? Obviously, you don't have to go into the hours of it, because I know there's a lot to it. But yeah, a brief of how, if somebody was going to come and always wondered and curious and heard this out on the episode, but then press that link in our show notes and come to you, what would they hear and through that discussion with them? And
so I get a lot of clients that come to me with poor money mindset, lack of self-worth, lack of self-belief, confidence, all of these things, wanting to do something amazing in their life, but don't feel like they have the resources to do that. So timeline therapy, we work very much with the unconscious mind where all learning, change and behaviour happens. Like people cannot change at a conscious level, no matter how many times you try and journal your way out of it.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, you can't change what you can't see. And a lot of this sits in the unconscious. So we work with 5 major negative emotions like anger, sadness, fear, hurt and guilt, in that particular order as well, because anger is always the most dominant thought and of like an emotion that people hold, not just in their minds, in their bodies. So it basically goes back. Now, this is where it can be a little bit spiritual, I guess. So it usually happens between the ages of 0 to 7 when we start to hold these beliefs about ourselves, because that's our imprint stage, right? So our brain as a child is like a sponge, which you'll obviously know having children. They absorb everything. But timeline therapy is so powerful because, yes, it can start off between the ages of 0 to 7, but we also cover generational trauma as well. So it's coming from your parents, your grandparents, you know, their parents, because it's passed down through cells. And if you really want to get into the science of it, I'd massively, massively highly recommend researching it because it is just phenomenal and it blew my mind.
Yeah,
so when we start to, it's incredible. So when we go through the process, it's a very imaginative process. The beauty of timeline therapy, it's not like talking therapy, so I don't need to know what trauma you have experienced in the past. We work very much, like I said, with the unconscious mind, and I guide my clients through an actual process where they are in full control of their timeline. And what we do is we access a part of the brain called the amygdala, which is part of our emotional brain, and we reduce the emotional charge. Because what happens is when people want to go for, you know, a new goal in life, they want to grow their business, they want to start a business, or they might even want to like scale their business, they have energetic blocks within them. They don't always know what they are. So a lot of clients come to me with a problem and it's never the thing. It's never the thing that they come to therapy for me, you know, with me for. It's always stemmed back. So as we go through this, it's like having a pearl of beads with all of these negative emotions. It's called a gestalt. And you cut the pearl of beads and all of the emotions that are connected to past memories fall away.
Love that.
Right. So it's not that you forget, right? We don't forget because memory is, again, one of our mental faculties. We've got 6 mental faculties. Memory is one of them. And we need memory. But what we don't need and what's not helpful in life is when we are carrying emotional residue from the past that is energetically showing up in a way where we're in lack, we're in disbelief, you know? And it's a very... Honestly, it's such a fast, effective process because you get straight to the root cause. There's none of this trying to figure out what's going on because your unconscious mind, it always knows.
Yeah, it does. You're right. The way I look at some parts of that you've just said is, you know, trauma is going to stay traumatic if the emotion stays quite charged, as you said. If we can learn, and it's certainly not easy, but if you can take the emotion out of the traumatic event, it actually becomes wisdom, doesn't it?
100%.
That's how I look at it. I remember somebody saying that to me a while ago, and that's really where I started to take the emotion out of my memory. And I stayed in that victim stage for a very long time because the emotion was still in the memory. And I learned to slowly over time take charge of myself and take the emotion out of it. Now I use it as part of my purpose, hence the podcast, I guess.
Yeah.
Do you believe then, because I come back to it on the podcast a lot, but crisis, do you believe we need to go through a level of crisis to make change? If that makes sense. Because I read a quote and it's from that book and I started to use it, but change often occurs when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of making a change. What are your thoughts around that?
Do you know, it's a very, very good question. And I've had, I guess, different opinions and views on this as I've gone through my journey. Yeah. Now, I know, and again, I always teach from experience, not just from textbook, but I know from my personal experience, if I hadn't have reached that level of low, let's just say, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today.
Me too. Yeah, totally.
And I think, you know, it's not nice going through the challenges and the hard times because it's painful and it hurts. Is there another way? In my opinion, if there was another way, you'd be going that way. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where you've got to have trust in the process of it and know that whatever is coming your way that is challenging, it's coming to you for a reason because it wants to help you. right? I truly have this connection, like I said, with the divine, the universe, like whatever you want to call it. And every situation now, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm operating from a very different level of consciousness. Like my consciousness back then, I was what I call asleep. I wasn't awake. I wasn't awake to this world and this energy and, you know, the belief and, you know, working with the divine. I wasn't awake to any of that. I was very much a victim. When I, like you, like when you start to change your perception, and you do this by 1% shifts, it's not something where you just wake up one day and oof, you're a different person, right? I do believe in miracles, but I don't believe in that. I think it takes evolution, it takes time, it takes, you know, determination, grit, all of these things. But I do believe there is a level of power in the pain. And that's when I help my clients and I teach from a place of turn your pain into your power. It doesn't have to be like, you don't have to be victimized by it.
Agreed. Yeah, because I mean, I went through my journey with you, but my workplace bullying wasn't enough, even though there was so much pain, and I never experienced anything like that before in my life. I never thought people would go to that length to destroy someone's soul. But that wasn't enough, even though I was on the rock bottom. I always believe you can dig a little bit deeper into your rock bottom, right? You can get that hammer somehow and find a deeper hole. And then, you know, I found myself in another toxic environment, which I thought I'd really worked through. And that empowered me to get this powerful, beautiful job that I always wanted. Then found myself in another toxic environment and went down again. Hence the eating, hence the staying up late. And it still wasn't enough, even though I thought I couldn't get any lower. But then 30 minutes away from potentially being in a coma due to septic shock, that to me was, I mean, if you're not going to come back from that, you actually probably just should have left and gone. But you know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like where I'm coming from? That's why I think I resonate with that quote so much. Not, it's actually from, it's a book called Live Like a Lobster. It's like looking at the longevity genes in lobsters. And I'm going to interview the author to that book as well. She's absolutely incredible. Anyway, I love going off on these tangents, even though that wasn't part of the plan. I love it. Absolutely love it. Is there anything more that we need to add? Sorry, because you've just rebranded with it was RL coaching, and now it's going into RL Limitless Consulting. Why the rebrand then?
I started my business as RL coaching at the very beginning, three and a bit years ago. And I've been wanting to rebrand for probably a couple of months prior to where we're at today. The reason for this is because I've had such a transformation myself, not just from starting my business and prior to that, but from last summer. Like my whole life did a 180. And I mean, I don't know if you want me to go into that.
I mean, is it the right time to go into it? You tell me. You know.
No, I'm very happy with where I'm at right now. And like I said, I don't tend to share from like the wound. It's always from the scar and the wisdom. But last summer, obviously, I've been working so hard on building the business, and I handed my notice in at my job last January. So it was like January 2024. My notice period was 6 months. And I thought, wow, this is a long time. You know, I had to literally mentally prepare myself to go into the corporate office every day, but I did it. And just before I left, my partner, who I had a house and a mortgage with, basically one day walked out, sent me a message, and then never came back. So it was the biggest shock to my nervous system massively, because I was like, I've just quit my job. My only source of income is me. My energy, my focus needs to be on building the business. Yes, I had X amount in my savings, but my energy was just on the floor. And I was like, oh my God, I thought I was going to spend my life with this guy, right? Yeah. We had a house and a mortgage in London, and, you know, it's not cheap to live down there. And I was like, shit, like, what am I going to do?
So this roller coaster, is at the top at this point, isn't it, before you drop, right?
I'm on the big one. You know, the big one at Blackpool, if you remember.
Yeah, Pepsi Max.
I used to love that. And I was like, right, okay. I thought, you've got two choices back. You either sink or you swim. And I'm like, right, well, let's see what you're really made of. And I'll never forget this day. I was in the house, and it was like a Friday evening, and I was on my own. I spent a lot of time on my own in the summer of last year because I needed that time to myself to heal. And I had this overwhelming feeling of, you're going to be just fine. You're going to be all right. Like, you're going to be fine. You've just got to ride out this wave. And that's what I did. I literally made sure that I was so stable, or tried to be as stable as I possibly could with what was going on externally. And I guess it was a real test of my faith, because a lot of people think that they've got faith, but only when everything's going right in the world, right? That's not faith. Faith is when you are literally up against it and you're like, okay, I don't know what's going to happen here, but it's having this level of faith and certainty over logic, because everything on the outside of my reality back then was telling me, you need to go and get another job. You need a stable income. Your energy, you don't know what you're doing. All of these beliefs and everything, like everything I ever believed about myself, I thought I'd done so much healing. It literally was like a big bright light shining down on all of my shadows. And I was like, okay, you're going to see what you're really made of. And that was when I went on this level of, I guess, living a limitless life. And that's where my brand was built, pretty much from becoming limitless, because I was at my very limit, to the point where I felt heartbroken. I didn't know where I was going to live. I knew I had to sell my house. I didn't have any closure. Like, I didn't know why he left. It just disappeared, and my brain was trying to search for answers, right? Because it wants to figure everything out. It's trying to make sense of the world.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, so I was pushed to my very limit, and that's when Limitless was born.
Beautiful.
So, yeah.
Did you, on a side question, did you ever get an answer from him? Or is it still poof into thin air?
It was more along the lines of, I can't give you the life that you want and you're better off without me. Now,
Right. So you did have that conversation in the end then?
this was just before we sold the house. So this was like nearly a year later.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So
And that, did that make that moment any better or worse, or I kind of expected that? Where was your head at?
I think I would have rather had a reason. And again, I think this is because of my past, that I've always been told I've met someone else, or I don't love you anymore, like whatever that might be. But I didn't get any of that. All I got was, I can't give you the life that you want. And I remember sat there thinking, but you've never asked me what kind of life that I want. It was like he assumed. And I think, again, I come from a place of love, and I'm like, people can only, act in the way that they've got the resources available to them to act. He didn't have, how can I say this nicely without sounding awful, but I thought it was dealt with in a very cowardly way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I'm still working on my forgiveness for that. I've worked on it before, and I'm not, that's like I'm saying, I'm still on this journey, right? I'm still going through my own healing from that, because, and I just think, like you said before, you asked me the question, do you think that people have to go through so much pain for the transformation? And yes, I do. But I think sometimes when situations like that happen, there's a level of, it could have been dealt with differently.
Yeah.
Like it was quite a painful time, because I had to, yes, I'm living in the Cotswolds, and I'm living the most beautiful life, and I'm so, so grateful. But that came at a cost, right? It came at a cost of pain and heartbreak, and healing my anxious attachment style, and trying to make, sense of the world around me when it was absolutely crashing down. Yeah. And it was this level of, am I that unlovable? Like, I don't understand what I've done wrong, because I didn't physically do anything. And I remember saying, if I would have cheated, if I would have, got us into a load of debt, or whatever that might have been, I didn't have a reason. And I was like, I don't understand what I've done. I've done nothing but love you with everything that I had. But that's where the problem lied.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that line that he gave you, upon reflection, had you ever, again, upon reflection, had you ever given him anything? I don't even know how to say it. Upon reflection, did you give him anything to think that? Did you always go on about the life that you wanted, and he felt insecure? Do you know where I'm coming from? Did you ever portray the type of life that you wanted for him to say that? Or was that just a complete blank statement? That's just an excuse. It's not you, it's not me scenario from the movies. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think because I was building a business, and again, business will take you on the biggest self-development journey of your entire life. And when you start realizing that there is an abundant amount of opportunity and money and limitless living out there, your consciousness expands, your energy expands. And sometimes that's too bright for people. right? The brighter you shine, the more of a shadow you're going to leave behind. And I think that can sometimes make people feel a bit funny from an unconscious level, because I think I was very much an example of what you can do with your life if you choose to heal, if you choose to be the confident one, and, you know, all of these things in the journey that it takes you on. And I know from what I know about timeline therapy and, you know, being a therapist myself, I just know the level of consciousness he was operating from. And I remember there a time when he said to me, "You've outgrown me." And it was because I was doing so much self-development. But the thing is, he wasn't willing to come on the journey with me.
Yeah.
Right? There was always a miscommunication between us. You know, communication was a really difficult thing in that relationship. And again, it's not I'm better than him and he's better than me or anything like that. It's just the way it was. You know, and I think this is a thing in life. Everything in the world, it just is. But it's the meaning that we give it that then amplifies the emotion. So I had to come from a very neutral place in the end and be like, he's on his journey, I'm on my journey, and we're just not destined to be.
Yeah. Well, based on where his mind was at, maybe you had outgrown him then because of the journey you were on. But maybe it was not outgrown. Maybe, like you say, it's going off this direction opposed to outgrowing, because it does put that layer on top, doesn't it? If you say outgrown, it's like you're better than somebody by saying that, but you're not. You've just gone in a different direction, haven't you?
Exactly that. And I think sometimes when you do go on this journey, I mean, I remember to the point where I could feel our connection, I guess, going different ways because our interests were different. I stopped drinking. I didn't want to drink anymore. Like, any bit of money that I had left over, I was invested in myself. I was invested in my business because I had a longer term goal. I wanted to do life on my terms, and I wanted the freedom, right? And when I say freedom, I don't just mean, oh yeah, you get to go and, you know, be self-employed and you get all this time. Believe me, I've never worked as many hours, you know, in my life, but it's on my terms and it's my balance. It's my level of balance, you know. And I just think some people are meant to be with you and some people are not. And I guess I wouldn't have been able to grow into the woman that I am today if I had stayed in that relationship. And again, that's nothing to do, you know, me being around him, but we just wasn't aligned. And I speak about alignment massively. Alignment doesn't always feel easy, but it's right.
Absolutely. So at that point then, you had already done some work on you. Maybe not to the level you are today in the Bec that I'm seeing, but at that point in time, you'd done some work on yourself to get to that point. So maybe that work you'd done prior to that split, if it was the old Bec going through that same split, maybe you wouldn't have recovered and gone on the journey as much as you have done since. You know what I mean?
There is no way, I don't think, I would have been as successful with my business as I am today, because the mindset that I used to have, I very much lived in fear.
Yeah.
Right? I would never have taken a leap of faith. I would never have quit my job and took a chance on myself. And the thing is, like I said, I was pushed to my very limit. I was willing to take myself to the very edge, because in my head, I was like, I refuse to live a life how I've always lived it. Like, it's not an option. And you have to hack your brain every single day. And that's why I love the work that I do, because I'm in it every day and I'm growing and I'm expanding. And people say I'm obsessed, right? They say I'm obsessed with my job or my work. And it's like, I'm not obsessed with my job or my work. I'm obsessed with my own life, right? There is a massive difference. And when you really hear that, that's when it all changes.
I love it. Yeah, no, I absolutely love it. So we've covered a few things there then. NLP, EFT. Shall we just talk about that a little bit? Because I think that's fascinating. We've not covered it, have we? Is there anything we've missed off in your journey in this regard before?
No, I don't think so. I think, well, when I studied to be a timeline therapist, I did NLP, EFT and hypnosis at the same time, because I was just so intrigued by loads of different modalities. And I know that it's not just one modality that's helped me get to where I am. So I wanted to explore loads of different types of modalities, because I thought the more I have in my own toolkit, the more I can help clients with, because not everybody is a fit, you know, for timeline therapy. It depends how deep you're willing to go, right, on your journey. And, you know, I use a lot of NLP techniques in my coaching as well. So if I know that a client isn't at the level where I want to dive into that past trauma and they're not there yet, we start with some NLP techniques. So it's like internal shifts, right? Things for tapping, like I've got a library full of tap-ins for so many different things, like public speaking, imposter syndrome, so it's starting with the level at which your nervous system feels safe at, because that's what it's all about. It's building that inner safety first.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Limitless Academy, officially up and going now?
Yeah, I launched it in January, so it's nearly a year old.
Yeah, wow. Oh, that's flown by then, hasn't it? So it's funny because I was reading a post earlier today of yours, and I thought it was quite interesting. So I wanted to bring that. You have no idea I'm bringing this up, but
I've no idea.
You could have scheduled this weeks ago. Who knows? If you're anything like me, I'm 3 weeks ahead of my scheduling stuff on social media. However, I read in the comments regarding the cost of your program and the value that you offer, and it was a friend, I think, that had asked you how much you charge, and you said it's like £3,000 for the 3 months, and it was like kind of the shock of your face. We don't, spend just a little moment talking to us a little bit about that, because I feel some people are shocked that I do a podcast and sometimes question why, and you know what I mean? Is that how you felt? I read it as that. Which angle you were coming from on that?
Oh gosh, I've had this, like, so many people, and again, these are always people that are not in my business world, if you like. Like, these are, like, I'm talking about friends who I've grown up with that, do have their 9 to 5 job and their salary and everything else like that. And when she said to me, she's like, so how much is it for, like, a program to come and work with you? Because she's clearly struggling with a bit of imposter syndrome. She wants to do something new, but she doesn't know how or where to start. She's not got the belief. And I said to her, well, it depends on the level of transformation that you want. I said, I offer breakthrough sessions, which is like an hour with me, where we will get one shift and one breakthrough. Or if you're an all-in kind of girl and you're like me and you want to work with speed and you're done wasting more time, then it's $3,000 for my 3-month program as it stands today. And she was like, I'm sorry, what? How much? And I understand, because that tells me the level of consciousness someone's operating from, right? In the sense of, they see that as absolutely extortionate to pay to work on themselves. Now, there's 2 elements to this that I always kind of think about. Is I have spent thousands in my education, right, to become one of the best timeline therapists, to become, the best EFT practitioner, NLP that I can be. All of my business mentorship that I've invested in, branding, marketing, perfecting my skill set, time, energy, dedication. Like, I dedicate my whole life to my work and my life purpose by choice, right? I love what I do. But then people don't think twice about booking a luxury holiday. They don't think twice about getting a mortgage. They don't think twice about getting a car, because I'm telling you now, if someone's car tyres, all of them went in one day, they'd be down at the garage and they would spend money on their tyres to get them from A to B. And I see that as my mindset, right? If I invest in my mind is a thing that gets me from A to B in life. And if I want to live a very limitless life, like how that looks to me, that's that inner freedom, I would invest double that. And I think it's changing people's perception on that. Luckily, I don't have clients that come to me and go, oh, I can't afford that, that's too much, because they see the client transformations that I post. They see my own journey. Like, I openly share how I've gone from this to this, and people want that, because life is so bloody short and we waste it so much on not believing in ourselves and not having the confidence to go and do the thing, so it can sometimes be a little bit, I guess when she said that to me, I just thought, you have no idea what I've put into this, into my work. Right? People don't see that, because it's like with a uni degree. You have people signing up for uni degrees left, right and centre. No, doesn't bat an eyelid. But when it's investing in yourself, because in my opinion, people say to me, is it going to work? And I always say, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Right? I know I can get my client results, but you've got to meet me halfway. Like, does timeline therapy work? I know it works because I've got enough evidence within my own journey and all of my clients. But the thing is, are you open to it?
That's right.
Because the mind's very clever. Yeah. No, the mind's very clever. It wants to prove you right. The unconscious mind always wants to prove you right. So like I said, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
Well, and I mean, that's the reason why I've stopped trying to prove other people wrong and try and prove myself right.
Yeah.
On this journey alone. How did that conversation end then? How did she walk away from that talk, that discussion point? Did you say everything you just said to me to her?
Pretty much, because I'm quite
Yeah.
open like that, you know? And it's like, well, look, the offer is there. If you want to choose to work with me, whether that be now or in 6 months' time, you let me know.
What did she
And I
say?
always leave it open-ended. She was like, well, I don't think I've got the money for that. And I always say this to clients, but how much are you willing to pay to change your life?
Well, there we have it. Powerful, right? You can see it. Bec's journey from that struggle to alignment. It's just getting started here on Leading Our Own Way. In part 2, we're going even deeper, as I always say, but it's true. We're going to explore trauma, emotional healing, heartbreak, and the crisis moments that become our greatest teachers. I think if this episode resonated with you, this conversation came close to your heart, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss what's coming next. We'll see you in part 2. And don't forget Tuesday Truths as well. See you then. Join us tomorrow to hear more from today's incredible guests and learn valuable insights to help you lead your own way. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you then.